On this podcast, we talk about different areas of business and all things marketing. My name is Dave Doyle.
And I'm Dave Alton, and this is Social Antics, another marketing podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Social Antics with myself, Dave Alton, and producer Owen. Dave, how are you this week?
In agony. It's week 10 of Dave.
Now you know how I feel every week.
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah. Week 10 of Dave being off to Marlborough Lights, and I'm in agony. I've had tonsillitis twice in the last 10 weeks. I can't sleep, getting the shake, so I'm off the veil. I'm off everything. You know what they say, no one likes a quitter. I can see fucking why. Fucking agony, so I am.
Off everything, but I'm sure a bigger wallet.
Nah, sure, I'm just drinking more.
Just get over it.
Spending it on other discretionary expenditure, effectively.
Other bad habits.
It's like they always used to say, you know, back in the day, whatever they'd say, like, oh, do you know, if you didn't spend any of your money on cigarettes, you'd have enough to own a Ferrari. It's like, do you smoke? No. Where's your fucking Ferrari? So, like, you'll find things to spend money on, like, ultimately.
Let's stick to me golf.
Yeah, there you go, exactly.
Yeah. But I'm delighted to see this in front of us this week. Rascals Brewing with Club. You're a big fan of this one.
Last time I had this, I was going down to Sharkin Island in Cork. Me and a car full of lads, and we got ourselves, as you would say, an eclectic collection of summery cans to bring down. It was a lovely, do you remember the heat
whatever
wave?
Could fit in the bag.
Exactly, yeah, it was the heat wave we had there last year, and it was just, I think we had just come out of lockdown maybe, or there was easing of restrictions, maybe the pubs were still closed or something. But we went down, and it was the weekend that they launched this, which, for people who haven't seen it before, so it's basically a collaboration between Rascals Brewing Company in Chicor in Dublin and Club, and everyone obviously knows who Club are, and it's called a Rock Shandy Pale Ale, and it is one of the most refreshing summery drinks you will ever come across. Again, this is not hashtag ad, we're not being paid for this. Club don't know we exist, Rascal don't know this is happening. We are merely enjoying their beer, but it's actually genuinely a gorgeous beer.
It's a really, really cool partnership. And when they brought this out last time, I know I gave out to you because I spotted that you put it up on our Twitter at the time that you were off to the island drinking it, and I didn't get to try it because it was actually a very limited run that they done.
Big time.
But absolutely went down a storm. But thankfully they brought it back only the last week or so, and I'm even watching their TikToks, and like they're doing great behind the scenes shots of it being great, but they're after creating a good bit this time. I hope to keep up with the demand of the summer, but it's nice to see it. Like it'd be a great thing to see these kind of stuff coming out at the start of every summer, like, you know, just for the summer. Just for the summer months.
No, all year round, happy out.
All year round.
Yeah, all year round.
Dave, brand ambassador.
Every day is a party.
Yeah. No, it's a cool partnership in fairness. And the Rascals, actually, the crowd that are making it, they do a lot of cool beer in fairness to them. They have a good selection of beers.
And and I like, again, the way we like the bit on the side. This is very, very simplistic. It's a crushable pale ale with a Club Rock Shandy twist. Done. Amazing.
Like that, do you?
None of this fucking unicorn flying over the hill to meet the lion in the mountain, any of that kind of stuff. Just very, very simple, clean. And the can is cool. Like, I mean, if you're talking about going into an off license, and you know nowadays, if you're going over to that craft beer section, every can is a bit mad and colourful. This is even mad and colourful amongst the mad and colourful cans.
But what's interesting is you walk into, like, it would grab, for never mind the drink inside, and it would grab your attention because that should not be in the beer section, the off license, the Club. It's such an iconic Irish brand now at this stage. You know, it shouldn't be in that section. So obviously it's going to catch probably why you caught your attention the first time around.
Yeah, no, what I'm interested in, because finish this off there now, as in the point in front. I'm interested in what it's like just from the can. So I'm wondering, is this almost like you would with a Club? Like, you drink a Club can from the can, right? You very rarely pour it into a glass. Like, yeah, we'll try it. But no, it's absolutely gorgeous.
Dangerous. No, fair play to the lads there. So, in terms of news this week, there's a few bits we have to get through in terms of things that popped up. But one thing I want to give a shout out to, more so on the back actually of what we talked about in the last time around, was the whole area of kind of TikTok e-commerce. We talked about they were after teaming up with WooCommerce that time in terms of to give further e-commerce options on the platform. But I spotted during the week Diarmid, who is one of the co-founders of Gym Plus Coffee, which we've talked about many times over all the episodes. But they've decided to team up with TikTok, and they're one of the first brands in Europe to offer this almost like TikTok live shopping experience, and they run a live event for 2 hours, and whatever way it works, you're able to literally shop while watching it, and you have people coming on trying the clothes, almost like a catwalk kind of event. But partnering, as I said, it's a new partnership they're trialing out. TikTok are trialing it out across Europe, Gym Plus Coffee being one of the first ones. I just thought it was a really interesting way, especially what we talked about, that this is the way TikTok is going now with e-commerce. So they're trying all these new ways. It's even actually coming up in the next week, because obviously we've talked about there, where they're doing, it's kind of Pride Week. They're doing another one, Pride Special, because they have a full Gym Plus Coffee Pride range, and all the proceeds that are going towards a UK partner that they're teaming up with for Pride. So they're really pushing this TikTok live shopping experience.
Yeah, and what I like about it again is that what we have said for probably the last year is that the worst thing that TikTok could do is that when they start monetizing the platform properly, that it becomes more advertising orientated than creative orientated, or that you will have ads which interfere with the kind of playful experience, which is what TikTok is. This is a perfect experience of how you can do e-commerce right, because you have, like you said, kind of a catwalk experience, but then you just have the e-commerce element subtly embedded within that. So again, the perfect idea of how you can actually use an e-commerce platform and make it entertaining orientated, and it's entertainment first, e-commerce second. So no, fair play to TikTok. And again, that's something that we haven't seen really on Instagram, Facebook. So again, they are starting to innovate more than those historic meta brands are, so that's interesting.
Well, you had the events or the catwalk or the special events, but the thing is, you couldn't actually do the end. There
was
purchase.
No e-commerce element. Yeah,
there was no end purchase of it. So this is great. And in fairness, actually, fair play to the lads in Gym Plus Coffee. They're obviously doing phenomenal, but to be able to be chosen by the likes of TikTok or any of these platforms to partner with, they're at a great level to do that, and to be able to kind of be innovative in that space.
No, it makes sense. And look, I think the key here for all this is that TikTok is going to come under pressure because there's no doubt there's going to be some issues of privacy concerns and stuff like that. They are starting to blend the different types of content, because it was all short form, and by short form I mean 10-15 seconds. Yeah. Now you're starting to edge out to 1 minute, 2 minute, 8 minute, a few of them.
Which I don't mind, because what drove me nuts was you'd watch something, click on their bio or click on their profile to see part 2, and you're scrolling for ages for this watched.
I actually don't mind that, but the functionality was terrible. There should be a way where you create almost like a book. Yeah, exactly.
Post the link below or something like that.
Swipe right to get to the next version of that video, and swipe down to get... so that's something, that functionality, which is quite poor. Now, again, there's a reason for that, is that they want people jumping between different pages constantly. But again, look, I think in terms of the innovation that's happened, look, there's no innovation happening in marketing or in digital advertising for years and years and years outside of Facebook and Instagram. So I'm loving all of this.
Yeah. So has there anything popped up for you this week, Dave?
So I suppose one of the interesting things that always happens in marketing and branding, where something happens which is of real political or kind of geopolitical significance. And obviously we've had the war in Ukraine for the last number of months, and we've seen a lot of brands pull out of Russia as a result of that. So obviously what's happened now is that Russia have tried to take those brands, put their own spin on it, and rebrand it. So for example, this week, McDonald's restaurants all over Moscow in particular, but it's going to be all over Russia, have reopened their doors with the rebranded chain called Tasty and That's It.
Yeah, I saw this actually. It's Russian, but that's what it's translated. It's Tasty and That's It.
Tasty and That's It. That's essentially what it is. So
it's all the decor is the same and everything.
Everything is the exact same, except for they've changed the branding. Now, this isn't like when, and again, the story gets a little bit kind of muddled up, whereby during World War II, when cola syrup couldn't be imported into Nazi Germany anymore, basically the Coca-Cola bottling plant in Germany basically created Fanta because they couldn't get access to anything else. And the interesting story about that is that the flavour of Fanta changed multiple times throughout that period because it was what ingredients they could get effectively. So this isn't like that. This isn't a brand going in and reimagining their brand within Russia. This is the Russian government or agents of the Russian state going in and recreating that brand ultimately. So that's kind of what is... it's interesting to see that, and we've seen it in China for many, many years, whereby brands or business people, when they reappropriate and they have their own versions of it. And actually looked earlier on, because you kind of forget them, right? But some of the actual brands in China in particular, which are counterfeited, and again, this is the same as the, what do we call it?
Not counterfeit.
Tasty, and that's
they're
it.
inspired by.
Yeah, inspired by is a very, very politically correct way of describing
You guys
it.
in trouble for saying that kind
That's
of thing.
it. Yeah, but there's if you look at a few of them, the more well known ones, I suppose, is Sunbucks, which is
Starbucks, isn't
Starbucks in Shanghai. You've got Walmart, which is
it? Walmart.
No points for this one. iPhone.
Vodafone, like, is it?
I forgot to iPhone.
Oh, iPhone. Is it that?
Oh God, that's iPhone is the macchiato, the
Do they have their
inspired
own? I
by
didn't know that.
iPhone, yeah. And then again one of my favorite one, just because they didn't even bother to try and make up a creative name for this one. Boreos. It's Oreos. My favorite is still, and no, to be fair, look, they are direct copies, right? But you get this in, like, if you look at some of your discount stores, for example, some of the mock-ups are ridiculous. Like, I mean, one of my favourite ones is Captain Morgan and one of the German retail, Commander Jones, which is just why would you buy Captain Morgan when you can have Commander Jones?
I don't know what the story is, and I think there's a story behind it, but isn't it Eddie Rockets changed all over the country then to like Rock and Joe's? It's
There was something else, wasn't there?
just
Something I can't
red to
remember.
blue.
Effectively. So look, it is an issue. Now, what I would say is that the interesting thing is that there is a seriousness to this for these brands, because all of the headlines across Sky News, BBC, CNN, the headlines across all of them was McDonald's restaurants reopen in
It'd be very
Russia,
dangerous what they're saying.
which
like
is not the
clickbait.
case. McDonald's have not reopened within Russia.
Someone was brought in to take over all the
Correct.
places.
Yeah,
and,
well,
and
that's
relaunch them.
my understanding of it anyway. Like, there's no way that McDonald's have gone back in nowadays, in particular,
they'd
and
be
reopened
ridiculed
stuff.
if they
Like,
did
yeah,
like
and look,
that.
I know capitalism, and look, the currency of capitalism is money ultimately, but even McDonald's wouldn't be stupid
low
enough
for
to
them.
kind of go exactly too low even for McDonald's. So that was an interesting one in terms of, I suppose, changes in geopolitics and how that might influence upon brand management.
I spotted another one there from McDonald's. So they have decided to partner with a non-profit group over in the US called Marcus Graham Project. From my understanding, looking at them, they basically look at kind of diverse groups that basically need help up and give them courses and help them get off the ground. But basically, McDonald's have partnered with them to create the opportunity for 12 marketers to go into almost like a boot camp for 11 weeks.
Right.
But the whole idea is that they obviously gain a huge amount of experience creating campaigns for McDonald's, obviously, throughout it. But at the end of it, they're going to get the chance to... No, this is where I don't get it. They get the chance it said interview for internships and entry-level roles with the Gollin Group and Wyden, however they pronounce it, and Kennedy, who are...
That's their agency.
They're the public relations and lead creative agencies for McDonald's. So it's all well and good, like, but it was kind of very much lower level. You know, to get the chance to interview for entry level, not even that the winner will be took on for 12 months. They only get the chance to interview.
But who are these people? I'm still a bit confused. Who are these people? What's the point of this?
Well, apparently, obviously, the small print. Then when you go the whole way down, it's McDonald's latest effort to improve diverse representation in marketing, but comes as the chain faces a lawsuit alleging discrimination in its advertising practices. So obviously, they've done something stupid. We need a bit of a PR stunt here to get out and about.
So
and
here's
good.
a bit of CSR just to greenwash everything.
So that's what they're up to. So on the back of that, so
now look again from my own background, and we send students out to do internships, and look, the more opportunities that the big companies give to young marketers, the better. I don't really understand the CSR element. They should be doing this anyway.
Yeah.
When
you're at that level, like even you see the likes of Jameson do it, Musgraves do it. They all do these huge internship programs.
And McDonald's do it as well here. Like, I mean, they have graduate programs, and like they're very, very good. They're very well renowned. Like, McDonald's are a very, very good company to work for if you're to go by the awards and the online rating agencies and stuff like that.
Well,
so
either way, they're going to have 11 weeks of 12 people creating specifically marketing campaigns for them. So
are they getting paid
position.
for this? Like, it's
I don't know. I tried finding that and I couldn't find it.
There is a touch of The Apprentice without Alan Sugar and the BBC about the whole thing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so I don't know. I tried finding that, but obviously well hidden in the small print somewhere. So I'm trying to find it out. Actually, I'm enjoying that drink. Are you enjoying it?
No, I told you again. It's one of the most summery drinks I've ever drank. It's absolutely gorgeous. I really, really like it.
I've never seen you more passionate about
And
something.
I would say, to be fair, now again, I am a sucker for good marketing. Like the can, because the can is summery, I immediately am going to think it's a summery drink, but it actually tastes
Giving you the good feels,
lovely.
is it?
And I would say, drinking from the can, it keeps its fizz better. I presume that's because it's the rock shandy. I know I know nothing about craft beer, or brewing or canning or anything like that. So
It tastes no difference whatsoever.
it does. It fucking does. It fucking
Just
does.
on your
It's
head, boy.
gorgeous. No, it's absolutely gorgeous. You are just a non-believer.
A non-believer.
And you can fuck
Non-believer.
yourself.
Right, we'll drive it on. Lidl's having to go with Tesco is what I spotted. Well, apparently it's actually going on a year, but it's popping back up at the moment that Tesco is accused of ripping off Lidl's logo. So not their actual logo, but the whole club card loyalty kind of side of stuff. They decided to use a yellow circle and a blue background, and Lidl are basically giving out saying it's copying their logo. They're trying to, hop on the bandwagon and all this. But my favourite statement of the whole thing was Tesco have come out and stated that it's a figment of Lidl's legal imagination, which I really like.
It's a bit of a funny one. Like, I mean, so
It's going to trial, and apparently it's going to cost both of the stores about £1.2 million, which is obviously not a small case by the time it's over. This is going on a year, as I said now already.
less than Amber Heard has to pay Johnny Depp, though. So the look,
Wait for the retrial.
Yeah, I think for all of these things, the I do look. So one, I don't think it was intended on the Tesco marketing side, because it doesn't make any sense. Why would you create a brand association such as the yellow and blue for something that is associated directly with your own brand? That doesn't make any sense from a strategic marketing perspective. One could argue that if Lidl and Aldi, or Lidl in this case, were eating up a huge amount of market share because they are seen as the kind of the discounter, that it would make sense for Tesco to bring in some stuff there, so they replicate own brand, for example, back in the day. But there's no logic in this, because Tesco themselves are kind of a discounter anyway, in comparison, in Ireland anyway, in comparison to your Duns and your Super Values, in the UK in comparison to your Marks and Spencers. So like,
what I think is more cheeky out of them all is when you go into a store and they have, the Murphy family are up doing their shopping, and it's like they have the two receipts and this one's like €100 cheaper than the other one, and they're always battling. But they mention the stores in those ones.
But it is again, and I've no issue. Look, that's particularly in Ireland and the UK, it is very, very difficult to criticize your competitors. It has to be absolutely grounded in absolute fact. In the US, it's an entirely different scenario. You can basically rip them to pieces, and it's all built on. Now, obviously, you can't slander them, but like you'd have seen the
elaborate.
Yeah, you'd have seen the examples over the years whereby Audi would put up a billboard in the US, and then next to them and saying your move
Yes.
Audi, or something like that, and then the next one will say, oh, checkmate, and it's a massive billboard. Now they're owned by the same bloody company, but that's not the point.
They're in the same room coming up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but the key here is that you can do, and Coke and Pepsi have done the same thing for years and years and years. I have no problem with, and again, the more information that consumers have, the better anyway, right? And like back in the day, Lidl and Aldi were far cheaper than your Tesco's and so on and so forth. Now they've come into the market for many, many years, and those prices have kind of come down, or the Lidl and Aldi price have come up, whichever way you want to describe it. But in relation to this case, it does not make any logical sense why a brand like Tesco would use the colours of their competitor and create a brand association with their competitor in store or in terms of their loyalty. It doesn't make any sense. Like if you think about it, if this campaign were to work and they were to conceptualize it, essentially what they are saying is Lidl are cheaper than us, and we are trying to make ourselves look like Lidl.
Look cheap.
That's essentially it doesn't make any sense why they would do it. So therefore,
there's only so many colours you can choose from.
I'm siding with the Tesco lawyers here.
Only so many colours you can choose from.
Exactly.
So what else exciting have you got there?
So last week there was the Apple Developer Conference, which is always very, very exciting because we get to see all the new things that Apple are launching in the next kind of 12 months and so. And I find two things interesting about this conference. One is the new products that they're launching. So over the years, it would have been AirPods, for
You want
example.
to say another
massive
phone
stuff
now
going on.
with a different size screen, no difference, and guess what? You'll be first in line to buy it.
I won't be lying to you.
Apple user.
I don't buy. I'm an Apple user, and by the way, they're the biggest company in the planet for a reason. Unlike your Samsung, lad, who are hovering around the 500 mark. But anyway, we won't talk about that. But ultimately, the key here, which I kind of find interesting, and again, it speaks to Apple's dominance in the marketplace, which is an issue for some up and coming brands, is that every year they release one new features on the apps which don't necessarily replace anything. So that means that, again, like the AirPods, for example, those were new, fresh, hadn't been taught, innovative. They also, though, have a section where they take brands that are out there at the moment and build them into their new technology. So therefore it's making those not competitors, but it's making those apps obsolete because they're basically giving it to all their users for free. So there was a few examples of this, which I thought were interesting. So I'll go through a few of the ones that are a bit superficial, and then we'll go to the rest of them afterwards. So one is they're basically after replacing Camo. So Camo were an app that basically allowed you to turn your iPhone into a webcam. Okay. So if you didn't have a good webcam or anything like that, you could just basically pop it on the back of your Mac or whatever the story is, and basically create a very, very powerful web experience. So that was that. That's after being kind of replaced in the latest version. You had Freeform, which is the equivalent of Figma's FigJam, or kind of Teamwork. Could be a similar idea where it's all about collaborating, or InVision would have similar products where it's all about developers collaborating with each other. They're now after bringing that into their new kind of platform. Aura, which is a sleep tracking app, which a lot of people use, they're now replacing that. That's been built into the Apple Health kind of suite. The one that I'm most kind of excited about, or the one that's going to make the most difference, is they now have Apple Pay Later, which is going to compete with Klarna. So for people who don't know, Klarna is an organization that last year was valued at about $46 billion. And the platform allows you to go into an e-commerce website, and instead of you paying, we'll say, €500 for a new laptop now, you spend 125 now, and then all the other payments are split out over a period of time.
Flexify or something, one of those.
The exact same as Flexify, which is not called Flexify.
Actually, sorry, it's not. What's it called? It's Home.
Yeah,
Right.
which is the UK and Ireland equivalent. Yeah. So and again, Klarna are now in our market effectively. So I'm not sure how Home are doing anymore. But ultimately, the key here is that this is kind of it goes along with Apple's overall strategy, whereby they're changing themselves or transforming themselves from a hardware brand into a financial services brand. And we've seen now they've got the Apple Card is out. Apple Pay is one of their biggest revenue generating sources at the moment. The revenue that they make through in-app purchases via users who use various apps in their app store is a revenue generator for them. And this is just another example of that. Now, what I think is important here is, one, they're now going up against a big player in Klarna who are dominant in this space, but it shows the power of Apple in so much as that if you've got an app on their store, you don't even need to go after their e-com business, because all the transactions are going to the App Store anyway. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting how they actually compete with Klarna in the short and medium term.
That's not the most exciting news to come out of Apple now in the last week. You're finally coming over to the dark side, as you would look at it. You're actually going to get proper chargers into your phone. They're changing the ports to take USB-C.
So I obviously don't read any of the articles, but I know you don't, because I'm the one who does all the research. But it's every single electronic device is going to have a universal.
Sure, we've been using them anyway.
You haven't?
USB-C.
It's USB-C, yeah.
What have I got on my phone?
I don't have a clue what phone
exactly.
you have.
So
but a lot of them don't have the USB-C. They have other ones. Yeah, not at all.
Old dodgy ones.
But ultimately, the point here is that that's good for consumers. Like, I mean, if you look at
because you get fed up if you got a charger. No, I don't have an Apple charger.
It's the same vice versa, mate. That's how it works when people have dual different types of chargers. But ultimately, look, if you look at so again, I know you've brought it up there now, but I've actually done my research on it. So have you any idea how much consumers spend on unnecessary charger purchases?
No.
Across the European Union?
No.
About 250 million euros, roughly speaking. And then if you're going to put your environmental hat on, there's about 11,000 tons of e-waste every year.
That's because the amount of times you run down the street, need a quick charger, you run into Deals or Pound Shop
buy
and you
some
buy
crap chargers that doesn't
and
work
next thing it starts
ultimately.
sizzling at home.
Yeah,
It's like,
effectively.
get rid of
Like,
it quick.
Did I plug out the charger that's going to light my house on fire? Don't
Yeah.
you see every now and then it's like the Apple phone or the Samsung after exploding and you're going, that'll never happen to me, and then all of a sudden you plug in one of these dodgy things and it's
It happened to me recently. My I had, what the hell plugged? I don't think it was my phone. I think it was the battery charger plugged in, but a charger I've had beside the bed for here 2 years now, and I was there one day, I smelled something. I looked down and here it was
Smoking.
the thing was smoking.
Yeah.
But like it's a good charger. It wasn't one of the ones that came with the thing.
I
Like
would argue it wasn't a good charger if it started fucking
No, I
smoking.
probably
In your
agree.
terms and conditions apply, charger shouldn't smoke. It's like myself shouldn't smoke.
it was over its warranty.
Yeah. But no, look, it's a good look. Again, I like... Now, it's going to cause an issue for the manufacturing brands because ultimately they're still going to have their own port in when they sell into the US, for example.
And is this just happening across Europe then?
Yeah, no, it's an EU Commission thing. Like, I know they've started to transferring some of their devices to USB-C already, but ultimately, like, I mean, they still have a lot of their devices which they say is going to stifle their innovation if they're forced to have a universal charger, which is nonsense because, again, we know with Apple, they're predominantly a hardware brand. Like, even though we spoke earlier on about them kind of transitioning into being a financial services company, the majority of their revenue at the moment still comes from hardware, which means that they want to sell more chargers, more headphones, more everything effectively.
Well, I think it helps in a lot of even third party kind of manufacturers, because like I was only chatting to a buddy of mine today now about wireless kind of lapel mics for shooting videos and stuff, and I said to him, what are you using? And he sent it on to me, and he's an avid Apple user, everything's connected, and this was a lapel mic that you plug in but only works for Apple, so it's those kind of things.
Everything
So
is
now
closed system.
everything will open up a little bit more.
Well, look, I mean, Apple have always, to be fair to Apple have always, their strategies been based around closed system. Nothing is open access, or very, very little is open access. So, and that strategy has worked very, very well for them, so they ain't going to like this. And I think, again, they can see, look, Apple are smart, right? They're probably going to come up with something here which isn't necessarily a charger, but you need some specific, whatever you want to call it, node at the end of it to actually make it work. So I don't know how what's going to go, but Apple are pissed anyway. That's all I know based on what based on the feedback that we've been hearing. Apple are not happy, and you can understand why.
They were celebrating here in Cork anyway. During the week, they decided to book Dermot Kennedy, the singer, for a surprise gig in the car park.
Did
he was
it
up
what?
singing. Yeah, they were booking him. No, I'm not sure the circumstances behind it, but yeah, Dermot Kennedy was up
So
to a
for
surprise gig.
listeners here, so people don't necessarily know about
Give
this
them the
because
education of it. Yeah.
they don't broadcast anything. But Apple's European headquarters is in Cork in Ireland, where we're based. And unlike a lot of American commentators who basically think that it's actually a post box here and they just have it for corporate tax reasons, it's actually
Two lads in an office.
it's actually, they've got a 5,000 plus strong workforce up there and they're constantly expanding. So they had a singer, a very famous singer, Irish singer, up there during the week.
Rock up to the car park and sing. But am I right in saying that it was it was the first outside of the US office that they opened up as well?
I have no clue.
I think so, yeah. Like it's up there a good 20 odd
Oh,
years
it is,
now,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's up there a good long time now. So,
So you're telling me that so you go and work for Apple and you get a gig at lunchtime. Usually when the students leave the university, the canteen doesn't even open. I got to bring in my own lunch.
Pay for their own tea.
That's the difference now between those two different career paths.
You reminded me of something there now. You get me inspired by, again, talking about kind of company cultures and stuff like that. I spotted that on all our talks of hybrid working and working at home and businesses changing their models and all this, Mr. Elon Musk decided during the week that he was taking it all back and he wants all of his staff in 39, 40 hour a week. They want to be in the office, no more work from home. The higher up you are, the more you should be in, the more visible you should be in. So he's changing it on. He says he wants them all back in the office.
Yeah, look,
Do you think many of them will go that way now?
I think the comment that he made was that if you don't want to come back, you can go and not work for another company, basically. So basically, he doesn't trust his employees to... Now, look, I have always been of the opinion that...
No, I think he came out and said that if you do not show up, you can take it that you are handing in your resignation or something. He's like very bluntly like that is the way he said it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, he wants them all to come back. But I mean, to be fair, right, if you take the majority of, let's say, professional administrative type workers across Ireland, the UK. The vast majority of their lives have worked in what we would call the stereotypical 9 to 5 job. The probability of several million people being able to fulfill very, very diversified, complex tasks across a wide variety of very, very different industries in the very, very specific time frame of 9 to 5 is basically zero. So I know you've worked for multinationals in the past, and I've worked for companies where you're sitting around for the day, basically waiting for the clock to run down so when you can go home, right? I think that is fundamentally unhealthy. You should, because you're not motivated. You are looking for the clock to as effectively wind down. So there is a complete logic in terms of you expending the maximum amount of energy into your work when you're working from home. I think there's a huge amount of issues with working from home in terms of socialization. I can understand if you worked for a company and then you went to work from home, it would work okay because you know how the company works. Try going into a company from scratch and working from home. Very, very difficult to do.
No initiation, no meeting the team, no nothing. Like only recently, I was at an event, and there was someone there, and they were talking about how they never met their colleagues in a year. A year, that's a long time, and they've only ever met them over emails. Which is phenomenal.
And if you're doing a transactional job, that might be okay. I still don't think it's okay because we've all been in office situations or warehouse situations whereby someone needs to run away, someone's overloaded at work, and if there's a collegial atmosphere there, you go and you help out ultimately, right? Or there's a teamwork dynamic and at least everyone kind of gets on and there's less issues for the organisation, everything becomes more productive. He obviously feels, and his data, and to be fair, he is a data-driven, predominantly, well, he's ego-driven, but he's also ego-ideological, but also a data-driven individual. His data is obviously showing that
productivity is
down, it's not working. And to be fair, if you look at the majority of Tesla workers, they're engineers, right?
They have to be on
site. They probably need to be on site for the ease of quick decision making. And look, ultimately, I think that there are going to be some organizations that will want people back in the office fully. I think there are some organizations that will do a work from home kind of a split. And we spoke last week about companies putting salaries on job descriptions. Yeah. Another thing they're going to have to start putting on job description is what is the working culture like? Can you work? Do you have an option to work from home? Do you have an option to take a sabbatical or go on a secondment? What does that actually look like? And again, people will want to work for organizations whereby I'm not necessarily saying it's a 3-day week, but it's a 3-day week at home and maybe 2 days in the office, or maybe sometimes it's completely remote. And again, people are able to structure their lives around that, particularly now when we're going into possibly a recession or we're going into inflation, childcare is going up, the cost of transport's going up. So again, people are going to be looking for ways that they can save when they're not going to be getting increases. That's a way to do it. So look, I think it's an interesting debate that's going to go on for a very, very long time. I don't think it's binary. I don't think it's right or wrong. I think it's very, very complex. Depending on the organisation, depending on the leadership style. He's decided very, very binary. No, you're in. And you know what? He can do that if he wants. It's up to him.
Yeah. So you have some big news this week on, I suppose, I keep saying, actually want to say Facebook, but the whole world of Meta.
Yeah, so last week, Sheryl Sandberg, who was their COO for the last 14 years and saw a massive amount of growth for that overall organisation. She was effectively described as the adult in the room when Mark was still basically a toddler trying to grow that organisation. So let's start with, I suppose, a couple of her successes, right? So in terms of someone who is business orientated.
This sounds now like you're about to rip her down after a few of these, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
So as a starting point, right? She has grown Facebook. So when she took over in 2008, their revenue is about $200 million, roughly speaking. Today it's about $117 billion. So she has overseen that whole growth. She was in core to revolutionizing their advertising model and their advertising strategy. She created what I would see as the most sophisticated advertising model in history in terms of advertising. And again, people are giving out now in terms of Instagram, Facebook being quite an expensive place to advertise digitally. back in the day, the amount of economic wealth that was created through people using that platform, targeting people, and again, we'll get on to it. But in terms of the model they created, it was absolutely incredible. That being said, and I'm not going to say this, I'm going to quote someone
You have a
else who
lovely
said
way
something.
about you just kind of build it up to tear it
Exactly,
down.
yeah. So, Shauna Thomas, who's a co-founder of a women's rights group in the United States, and this is a quote from the Guardian newspaper, she said that Sheryl Sandberg may fancy herself a feminist, but her decisions at Meta made social media platforms less safe for women, people of colour, and the American electoral system. Sandberg had the power to take action for 14 years, yet consistently chose not to. I think this is the core issue that I have with Sheryl Sandberg. So she said that she was leaving to focus on her philanthropy, so going out and doing good for the world and all the rest of it.
She made enough money, she can leave.
This is the woman that oversaw the Cambridge Analytica scandal, has overseen Facebook being used for Brexit, has overseen Facebook being used for the election of Donald Trump, has seen Facebook being exacerbated as a place for racism, misogyny, all different types of things. And then the one that we've spoken about on a number of occasions, which is your teenage suicide and so on and so forth. So they have that platform, and by that platform I mean your WhatsApp, your Facebook and your Instagram, cumulatively have been incredibly damaging to society. And we've spoken previously about verification, all the rest of it, right? Now, forget about what they should do. The point is that they did nothing, and she was the main person in charge when all of this was going on. And for her now to say that I am leaving and I'm going to engage in philanthropic work is the equivalent of
Not sitting well with you, is
a
it?
warlord basically blowing up a warehouse and saying that, well, now I'm going to build a greenhouse to grow
I think-
fruit and veg for the local village. Like, it doesn't work.
In my opinion, yes, there's so much we've talked about that can be done, but the thing is, you can't forget that in a sense it's not them doing it, it's the people using these platforms, using them for negativity.
No, disagree entirely. You're absolutely wrong.
No, I know. You just love disagreeing. But no, I think, yes, it's the people using the platform, but they need to step in further. So I think, people using the platform obviously are violating all the rights that are there, but these businesses are not stepping in quick enough.
Correct. Well, no, it's the classic, right? If someone walks up to someone else's on the street and gives them a racist comment or misogynistic comment or a homophobic comment, the guards step in and they say, you can't do that.
Yes.
Facebook are the guards in this scenario. They own the platform. They have the data. If someone... Do you not think that if they wanted to, in the space of about an hour, they could basically do almost the Facebook equivalent of Control F? Anyone who has used these phrases on our platform is immediately banned. They could do that. They could have brought in verification. There was a number of examples whereby they allowed teenagers to be targeted. So obviously, right, if you're a teenager and you're kind of looking at different people's, or we call it Facebook stalking, right? But going on to other people's pages, scrolling through Instagram, looking at all the parties that people are going through, and ultimately building up a huge amount of negative or negative impact in someone's self-esteem. They can monitor all of that, and instead of finding a way to stop that, they created an ad platform that allowed advertisers to exploit that. So again, that whole when you shop to make you feel better, retail therapy. The exact same idea, right? So they basically digitized that concept, but now we knew when someone was feeling shitty about themselves, and it made them very, very easy targets for marketers. So look, as far as I'm concerned, and again, look, in terms of a woman in Silicon Valley, she released her book, Lean In, which was all geared towards pointing out some of the mistakes that employers make in terms of hiring women, and also pointing out some of the mistakes that women make when they're in organizations where they feel inferior and therefore they don't ask for promotions and are as aggressive and so on and so forth. That's fine. And it's good to have a leader within Silicon Valley who is a woman who has been very, very successful, but she's been very, very successful from a capitalistic perspective in that Facebook's balance sheet is a hell of a lot better now than it was previously. But she has done irreparable damage to people, individuals, and society. And for that, you can't just look past that and say, well, no, she's going to go and do all this wonderful work, And again, if you look at all the stuff that we've been speaking about in the last 2 years, if you look at all the things that every pub in Ireland, the UK have been talking about in the last few years, what is it? It's Boris, it's Trump. It's Brexit, Musk, all these kind of stuff. And again, it's the spread of misinformation, disinformation, misogyny, racism, and all of this was enabled predominantly by Facebook and by Instagram.
They were the leaders of it.
And she was in charge, and she didn't do a fucking thing about it. And that is something that can't be forgotten about. She's going to go off, she's going to do philanthropic work, and she's probably going to run for president in 20 years. And people shouldn't forget this is what her attitude actually is. This is what her legacy is.
We'll be talking about it in 20 years' time, just to remind people.
100%. It's like, oh, this fucking one again. She's back like the devilry incarnate. And by the way, just in case people think that I'm being, but look at some of the American commentary, and they are ripping her an absolute new one in terms of pointing out the damage that she's done. So look.
Well, is she gone yet, or on this?
No,
whole
she's on. She's on the way out. Yeah, she's going to do her
lap of honor
on the way out the door and say bye to Mark, and that'll be the end of it. Now, look, I think Sheryl Sandberg's very, very smart. I think on the business side of things, one thing to point out is that she could be leaving. She's saying because she wants to do philanthropic work and her time is up.
She could be just sick of his shit now.
I think so. I think if Facebook's or Meta's shares are tanking,
she
could be getting out when she's ahead. And she might see inside, maybe there's a privacy thing coming up. Maybe she just sees the complete lack of innovation within Meta as opposed to your TikToks of this world, which we spoke about earlier on.
Well, they're focusing on the whole area of which is still the metaverse and all this kind of area, which is another kind of area. It seems like a playground for Mark Zuckerberg at the moment.
Completely. And if you look at some of the other people in that organization, you wouldn't be Nick Clegg, who you might remember as the former Liberal Democrat leader, you wouldn't have seen him as a leader of one of the biggest companies in the world, but he could take over that job. So it'll be interesting what the hire is for them to fill that post, because Facebook are talking all about
at
metaverse.
that level, at that level of a job, do they go down the route of, no, we want someone that's good in the job that will actually drive the business forward? Is it an internal hire, or is it a pure namesake that, as you said, someone to hire in from the outside that creates publicity for them, that they're on the right path?
I think it's going to have to be someone who's been there, done it before. If they went and poached someone from Google or Apple, that would be a big scoop. Now, I don't think anyone from Apple.
But that's the thing, when you say there, that they have to get someone that's been there and done before. There isn't very many people that's been there and done it before in terms of
I don't know. It has to be
competing against Facebook. There is no other social platform that's been. TikTok are on the rise in the last year, but they're still nowhere near the giant that is Meta.
Well,
Facebook.
if you're looking at the balance sheets, no. If you're looking at the trends,
yes,
everything is trending towards TikTok at the moment. Facebook are losing users. Instagram is losing users, and we talk about this in terms of attention economy, right? And Facebook built their empire based off of this concept of the attention economy. They are losing attention.
Yeah.
People are getting, and I think it's for two reasons. One, lack of innovation. This Reels is effectively TikTok.
Useless. It's absolutely useless.
Effectively,
I hate it with a passion. I think it's the most clunky tool that they put in feature.
But it's TikTok ultimately, right? And I think that
it's almost like the first draft of TikTok.
Yeah. So their innovation has not been good in the last number of years. And
no, Instagram, the whole area of stories, they were onto an absolute winner. They crushed Snapchat.
That wasn't theirs. That was Snapchat's idea.
That's what I'm saying. They crushed Snapchat. They took it and done it better. Whereas they took the whole idea of, I know, yes, you're saying about the innovation, but yes, they took it and made it better. They tried to take TikTok and make it better, and I think that actually damaged them. I don't think it's as good.
I'm not sure they made stories better. I think
the initial stories, I 100% I disagree with you. Yes, they did make it better. All these the features that they put in there, the swipe up, the links, all this kind of stuff, absolutely phenomenal.
No, they did, but I think that was just because it was. I think the actual features themselves are better on Snapchat, but it worked better on Instagram. If that makes sense. As in the environment within Instagram where you had the feed and you also had the stories works quite well because you've got a blend of almost two different content traps, if you like.
It's amazing how quiet Snapchat's gone now.
The kids still use it.
It's just more messaging though, but everything else on it's just very quiet. There's news about it. There's nothing I see actually.
Well, there isn't. Well, to be fair, again, in my mind, if we're talking about innovation in terms of advertising, Snapchat was an incredible platform from a user perspective. It never reached the heights of any of the other platforms in terms of its advertising and marketing capability. But I've never gone into a company and said, you need to advertise on Snapchat. It just doesn't. No, again, creating a Snapchat profile, maybe. But advertising, no.
But we said about TikTok, if they started doing that on Snapchat, it was going to ruin it. they've just gone too far now that they can't do it now because the audience is not there. But that's where TikTok, just as we've talked about many times, TikTok just have to be very, very careful about how they do this. Otherwise, they're going to wreck the platform.
Yeah, entirely. But look, ultimately, she's gone. Ding dong, the witch is dead. And
wait for the new one.
Let's see, and look, let's see who takes over, and we'll go from there. But again, another example of a tech CEO. We've mentioned Musk a few times, and I know she wasn't the CEO. Mark Zuckerberg was technically the CEO, but then she was meant to be the adult in the room, and she failed miserably, as far as I'm concerned.
Love that. So I think we'll finish it up there.
And by the way,
the drink is
I
nearly
know
gone.
full well she doesn't give a fuck because she is walking away with multiple millions, and we're still buying our own drink.
We're still buying our own drink. No, in fairness, drink is over. So that's the end of this week's podcast. So you all done now?
Lovely summery drink. Love a summery drink.
Sitting on the beach.
Sitting on a beach.
Lovely. So thanks everyone for listening. You can subscribe to us on social media, and we'll see you again next week. Take care.
Talk to you later.